Greetings everybody, welcome. In this video I'm going to be covering the third paper in my sequence in English 101, which is the strong response paper slash textual analysis paper. So all of you guys, I haven't looked, all of you guys are going to read August and Tannen, and you're all going to basically what this third paper is going to be. You're going to respond to August or Tannen yourself, right? So you can ask yourself, which author did you agree with more, August or Tannen? And and of course you don't have to absolutely agree or absolutely disagree with one, but you want to write, so you can write about how you either agree or disagree with one of the two. Then basically what you're going to be doing is you're going to be taking your own experiences to use as evidence either for or against August or Tannen. So let me show you the prompt. It says paper 3 is going to be evaluating one of two sources, August or Tannen. I say both, but I recommend just sticking to one or the other. So the main reason why you do this paper is you're responding to an argument as a scholar would. Okay? The ideas that you're going to use in this paper are going to kind of build and transfer over into the fourth paper, which is going to be kind of a researched argument paper. Okay, so you're going to be practicing some of the same skills even that's going to help you write that paper. So one is going to build on the other, right? But this is a kind of common paper that you would write in a college setting responding to an article. So, like I said, the essay is called Strong Response. So basically a strong response is when you bring your own evidence, into the fray. Okay. Basically what you're going to do, I'm going to show you how to write a thesis in a second. But you're going to have an argumentative thesis statement in the beginning, saying I agree or disagree with August or Tannen, false, and then some reasons. You're going to kind of provide a short summary of August or Tannen. So basically, the way to do that is to ask yourself, okay, what was August or Tannen's main point, main idea, right? It's pretty easy to do that just by looking at the title of their essay. Right? Then ask yourself, what were the main arguments they used to support themselves? Just to take August had a lot more reasons than Tannen. Like I'll just cover Tannen. I'll just talk about Tannen for the purpose of being concise here. Tannen said there are no unmarked women, meaning that a mark is kind of like an unconscious judgment we would place on a woman. Her reasoning was she went to this conference, she found herself naturally judging women. Other women found that men didn't face the same scrutiny because they had similar appearances. Like women, judgment values happen to women because of things like their hair, clothing, maybe their accessories, shoes. Right? He also argued that last names have an impact. And if a woman doesn't take the husband's last name, then that says something about her. Even words like Miss, Mrs., Miss, MS, and MISS. That's a mark of some sorts to show that women have a marital status. Men do not have that. Men are always Mr. And she also made that point about the chromosome. Basically, the right way to write a summary then is to say this was her main idea. These are all the points she used to support that idea. That's all a summary is. You don't have to start arguing or anything. A summary just kind of shows that you understood what you read. Then everything after that's going to be pretty much your own evidence, right? So let's say you're agreeing with Tannen that shoes is one of your reasons. Well, you can provide a story about maybe how you marked a woman who had with shoes. Maybe you would disagree with Tannen and say men are judged based on their shoes too. Here's a time where I judged a man based on what kind of shoes he was wearing. So that's kind of the structure of the whole paper. You're going to take you're going to take 3 or 4 of the author's points. You're going to use your own personal experiences, argue either for or against them. And so if you don't use those personal experiences, you're just kind of like rehashing what August or Tannen said. It's not. So this is kind of a way of making this your own, so to speak. So let me go over to. So let me go over this. These are notes that I typed out for this paper. This is let me move my face for you. It's not going to do it. But this is a paper that's pretty easy to outline. Okay. And so whenever you're writing your introductory paragraph to this, you never. This is something that I come down hard on you guys on. You will find out. I don't want to read kind of boring, generic intros. So something like, in today's society, gender discrimination is a big problem, right? That's a very kind of boring way to start an essay. It kind of like makes me not want to read the essay whenever I read something like that. Something I want you guys to practice is having an engaging introduction. So I give you a couple of different ways you can think about that. One way to start a paper is to tell a story, get the reader interested. Maybe you give an interesting fact or statistic to shock the reader, and that's a way of hooking you into one of the articles. Maybe you can start out with a quote. So lots of ways you can start a paper. Be creative with it. Don't give that kind of basic cookie cutter stuff. Then you see in an intro, got to grab the reader's attention, like I just said. Briefly introduce the subject matter, so like introduce August or Tannen. Then you got to provide a thesis. The thesis is key to organizing this whole thing. Okay? If you don't have a good thesis, the whole paper is going to fall apart. It's going to work that way for paper 4 too. So, one second. I have this thesis creator sheet. This is kind of a basic, this is a 101 class, so we're still kind of learning the basics. This is kind of a basic sort of way to do a thesis. I can tell you for a fact that in my own writing, I've used this method before. And so simplicity is often a good thing. So a good thesis has 3 parts, okay? First part, while others believe this, right? It doesn't matter what it is. That is what we call a tension phrase. Tension phrase. So what this is doing is it's putting your argument in tension the other one, right? So let's say you're arguing against August. So we could say, while August argued, men are discriminated against just as much as women. right? That's a tension phrase because you're putting your argument in tension is. You have the book. You have your statement of belief. I'll argue that it is unethical. Or for August or Tannen, you can say I agree or disagree with August or Tannen. Because, and then these are called the premises. These are the building blocks to your argument. And just like how August and Tannen had building blocks to their argument, you're going to as well. What you're going to do then is you're going to take several of the author's points that you're responding to. You're going to, like I just said a minute ago, you're going to bring your personal experiences in. But you need to list them here. So you might say, I agree with Tannen because for argument about dress, shoes, last name. Right? That would signify to me as your reader what I'm getting ready to read. It also provides you an order in the paper because you're going to discuss each point in the order that you present them in this introduction. That's something that I should make note of too. That's a good thesis. For one of our first activities with this paper, I'm going to ask you to write introduction with the thesis and the summary. Okay, the summary of August and Tannen. So whenever you're writing your thesis, use this model. Okay, like I said, one of the basics is often a good thing. As you guys grow and mature as writers, I'll trust that you can modify this a little. For now, stick to the basics. Let me go back to my class notes. Then after that, you provide the summary. After the introduction with the thesis, the summary. Remember what I just said. Your points. What was August or Tannen's main point? What are the arguments they use to support that point? You don't engage yourself. You don't say this argument is bad or anything like that just yet. All you do is prove to the reader you know what you're talking about. It also grounds the reader into your essay, right? That way a reader would know what it is you're responding to. Let's say your reader is someone who hasn't read this before. Their summary paragraph will give the reader an idea of what it is you're talking about. Then after this is your premises. So something that I'm going to discuss here is paragraphing. Okay? Paragraphing, organizing at the paragraph level is essential. So the way that this is often, so this is kind of a corny kind of metaphor, but I used a textbook once that called this Hamburger Paragraph. So in a good paragraph, or maybe a couple of paragraphs, maybe you could think about this in like sections rather than paragraphs. And in a good section, you're going to have at the beginning a topic sentence or the bun of the burger. You're going to have a topic sentence that relates back to your thesis. Let's say your thesis was I agree with Tannen because of dress. You would basically repeat yourself right here. Tannen's argument about dress is sound, something like that. That basically just keeps the reader, reminds the reader of what order is. It shows the reader what you're getting ready to argue. It's important to have that sentence because without it, people tend to spend the whole essay summarizing. Okay? Then the meat is the middle, and this is the most important part. Right? This is going to be your own personal evidence. So what stories from your own life, maybe stuff you've seen on TV movies, what kind of specific, very specific evidence can you use to argue with these claims? This is key to doing a good job on this paper. You have to incorporate your own evidence. Don't just rehash what August Tannen said. Use your own evidence, own experiences to engage with. Then, bottom one is the interpretation. So you're going to give, so maybe you give the story about using your own experiences, and then in your own voice, you just kind of have to like drive home your point to the reader. So, my story about a friend I know who did not take her husband's last name shows Tannen is right about Marx. Right, so sentence or two to that effect at the end of each section, kind of, you think about it like you're hitting home your point, right? Basically, depending on how many points you have, 3 is always a kind of a good number, but you can do more than that. You think it'll help. Right? Remember, inductive reasoning, go up to 100%, go up to 99.9%. How many claims do you think it's going to take to support your point? 3 is always a good number. You never want to go below 3. Okay. Then you're going to have a conclusion section. In your conclusion section, the one thing they want to ask you to do is don't just summarize what it is you've just written. Now, this paper is only going to be like 3 to 4 pages, and so I can remember what I just read in the last 3 or 4 pages. You don't have to sum up what you just said. So a good way to conclude this paper then is to ask yourself, maybe you can like encourage the reader to take some kind of action. Maybe you can kind of show, why should we all care about this issue? If you tell a story to begin your paper, you can then kind of go back to that story in your conclusion. Right? That's kind of a nice way to make one full circle. Lots of ways to conclude a paper besides summing up what you just said. So again, this is something that I'm really kind of stern on. You want a good conclusion. So let me go back to the prompts. The timeline for this paper is going to be pretty clear. The thesis creator is uploaded. The notes are uploaded. And so have fun with this, right? Engage with these arguments. Always, August and Tannen are always interesting. At least I think so. Some of you guys couldn't have sat through my class where we write down all the words to see if August is right. But if you have any questions, good luck. I'm sure you'll do fine on this. See you guys next time.